Terraforming agency has grown. Now has a drone. Need those nutrients. Ocean Institute size 3 now is Golden Age. Nice. It's going to come down to 20 nutrients to grow this base. There are 2, so 18 remaining. If I'd worked this instead of this, there would have been 16. Yeah, I lost a pop growing a turn slower this way. I suppose, since these pops don't even feed themselves yet, oh no, they will by the time. Lost a mineral in order to, because this be 2 nutrients mineral. Be a little closer to next growth in order to gain a mineral. Yeah. Not great unless I actually get to an energy crunch with all this super rushing. Or buying things up to 10 and then buying again the next turn. So 2-turn rushing stuff. It's very expensive. One reason why I have certain minimal industrial production on all your bases. I'm just swimming in so many energy credits. Including loans. Speaking of, I'd like to go and ask deter for a loan soon when I get a little lower in energy. She took all that money, wouldn't sign a peace treaty. On the positive direction, I was thinking about strategic things. Once Morgan, that Pat breaks down over his war with Miriam, it doesn't hurt to have strengthened the Gaians because they'll probably ally with them against the Hive. The Hive will be, well, they'll hate me because I'm running democracy. And they prefer police state. And so I can't really build a sustainable alliance with them, but I can with the Gaians if I switch to green economics, which there'll be a phase to do that when my base number gets very high. Free market is great for a while if you don't have problems with pacifism drones like I have with all the scouts. With the very aggressive exploration I've done. Too many pacifism drones to run free market otherwise. And by the time I built the infrastructure to deal with it, it wouldn't be worth it. It's a little different textination. Without textination, game science labs earlier makes more sense. Plus, you reach the point of being able to reach do free market before you have as many scout units. Industry outpaces energy more, and I like that. It's more realistic, but because of my particularly aggressive exploration protocols and the difficulty of actually nailing Crossfire to even want not the passive endurance anymore to pop boom. Because of my aggressive exploration, my strategic choice of that, not doing free market. And then, so planned for a while to pop boom with Chillins Crashes. Then green, because bureaucracy drones and inefficiency, and be able to run up actually the econ slider, not the labs. Because tech has a much lower return on investment on textination. It's 50% more expensive. So for a while I want to run up the economy slider, and then later I want to run up the lab slider. Instead of staying at 50-50, I'd probably want to be 60% econ now, and then later 60% labs, or 70 if I could have the efficiency for it. And then, green for a while. One of the really nice benefits of it, it's not just the efficiency, it's capturing mindworms, which people think of them as, military units. No, actually the best use of mindworms is to disband them for minerals. They're each worth 5 rows. of minerals. So when you expand it, you get half. So that'd be 25 minerals if I wasn't, well, I won't be running plant if I'm doing green. So it'd be 25 minerals to expand a Mindworm, which is far more valuable than 30 or 40 energy credits, especially if it allows me to rush something a turn sooner, not have to do this super rushing thing. So Mindworms as a source of minerals instead of energy, and having combat buffs and capturing and sometimes getting planet pearls, and that's really great. And the efficiency is very great. And then later, eventually, when I've got lots of special spaces, because of my economy being so strong under green all this time, and I really built up my facilities, supply cars and such. As your tech and your infrastructure improves and your terraforming, then eventually plan becomes worthwhile again because of the industry bonus, especially if I'm running wealth and I am golden aging a lot of my bases, so I'm getting the +1 energy, the same as if I was running free market, because wealth gives you +1 economy. You get +1 economy in bases and golden age. And with planned at that point, lots of infrastructure, probably running the psych slider up and just pop booming all over the place. Science slider up to keep it that magical +2 econ, and just pop booming to ludicrous populations, filling up hap complexes, and sometimes building colony pods at places already pop booming, because then the last pop will refill instantly, and like growing headquarters and world health and planning agency up to like size 24 bases to be my main science centers, maybe also civil rights agency. Let's see, it's got 1, 2, 3 tiles between it and the headquarters. Oh, that's the same as forest agency, so yeah. These 3 bases especially are the closest, but the next closest 2 are forest agency and civil rights. So building up my core to really, really large bases, so they can work lots of tiles and have lots of specialists. And yeah, produce lots of labs. Focus multipliers there. So yeah, advantage to really take advantage of the pop growth you get with planned. Whereas green actually has a pop growth penalty. Green economics strive to integrate human progress with the needs of the biosphere. Green economies use resources efficiently and tend to avoid excesses of industrial development. If anything, an industry buff represents using resources efficiently, which could provoke plants' not native life, but population growth necessarily suffers for lack of space, -2 growth. So even with a children's creche and golden age and democracy, my bases would only be at +4 growth, so 6 nutrients a row, and for those that don't have golden ages, it'd be 8 nutrients a row. So slow growth only, and not even necessarily the fastest slow growth. Many bases 8 nutrients per row, so growing a base of size 12 would be like 96 nutrients at that point. That's a ton. Yeah, so you can't grow your pops up nearly as quickly to get really large bases under green. I suppose you can sometimes switch to plan for a while, pop boom, go back to green, but it becomes very micro heavy, and I'm probably going to start relaxing on the micro as the game goes further along, and then I build up my lead, and it's like, well, I'll be a little, instead of doubling down on getting so far ahead of AI, I'm already winning. Start assigning governors to bases, start doing less micro stuff, start focusing a little more on the big ambitious terraforming projects I really like, and coming up with cool names for new bases, and I don't know. Maybe aesthetics a little. We'll see. Probably not too much. I've always been someone who's believed that form follows function, which people often take that saying to mean the opposite of what it actually means. Form follows function means if you build things for functionality, beauty will naturally fall. You don't need to make um, make things intentionally beautiful, but this gets confused with stuff like ugly concrete architecture in real life. That's not form follows function, really. When you take functionality to its very highest levels, you actually get some rather beautiful designs because you have to be very clever. Concrete architecture, like stuff like the infamous commie blocks, is just lazy architecture, which actually the commie blocks were Soviets in their own internal documents say they were not up to the standards they wanted to build, but they had the fastest urbanization rate in the world ever up until that time. Because they had huge numbers of people leaving the countryside, moving to cities to work all the factories that the state was building. Because, century planned economy, you don't have to wait for it to be profitable. You can just pre-build factories, pre-build infrastructure, create tons of jobs, people moving from the countryside for better wages, because you still essentially made wages. The socialism is not the lower stage of socialism, which is what the Soviet Union had and never claimed to have anything different, is not from each according their ability to each according means. That's the higher stage they hope to reach in hundreds of years. The lower stage of socialism is from each according is not even from each. It's one phrase, to each according to their work, meaning nobody can exploit your labor. In capitalism, you have a boss who siphons off. In developed countries, like half the money you make, and in underdeveloped countries, it can be as much as 96% of the value a worker produces gets taken by their boss instead of paid them as wages. Socialism is supposed to pay workers 100% of the value they produce, minus some for capital reinvestment. The Soviet Union unfortunately deviated somewhat even from that because they had the state-owned enterprises pay workers only often around similar percentages, maybe a little higher, like 65% of what they produced as opposed to half under capitalism. And some of that was going to very aggressive capital reinvestment rates higher than in the capitalist world because the Soviet Union had a lower capital efficiency than free markets, meaning each dollar of investment would produce a lower return on investment, but they had a higher overall economic growth rate in the capitalist world. And the reason why people may not think that matches is because a larger percentage of their GDP was put into growing their economy because they didn't have to pay for luxuries for billionaires and state oppression systems just to protect the property of the very rich. The Soviet Union actually had a much lower ratio of police to population than the United States did. This is something people don't realize. Now, the police were empowered to violate civil rights in all kinds of ways, especially the secret police, but there weren't that many of them. They had fewer police that were less restricted by laws, but the lower spending on things like police and internal surveillance, because but KGB was never funded as well as the CIA, for instance, and actually was mostly involved in doing things overseas to spread communism around the world. Lower spending on luxury goods and lower spending on the lavish lifestyles of the very rich, but we're also talking luxury goods. I was saying that something different because smaller luxuries for like what would be the middle class professor types who were often the people who were most critical of socialism because they knew they could live better under capitalism. The lower classes lived better. The middle classes usually lived a little worse, and there were no bourgeois. There was no real true upper class under this socialist system. But there was free housing, healthcare, education. The middle classes had a little bit less in the way of luxuries, but much greater security. You were never one medical bill away from bankruptcy, like even many middle class Americans are today. And they weren't that much worse off than they would have been in a developing country that was capitalist. People compare them falsely to the U.S., but the U.S. is a much wealthier, more developed country. The Soviets were catching up anyways. So lower return on investment on their investments because the century planned was less efficient in its investments, is why, if anything, the industry buff should go to free market in this game because that represents how efficient your investments are. Efficiency is more like corruption. It doesn't make sense to attach that to socialism. accept some nonsense claims about corruption in the Soviet Union. Yeah, they have lots of corruption, but so is the U.S. It's just in the U.S. it's actually legal. you know, lobbying, that's corruption. Just because it's not against, in fact, the fact that it's not against the law means there's more of it in the U.S. because you don't even have to risk going to jail for lobbying like you would have in the Soviet Union or in China today. Like lobbying will get you thrown in jail. What's essentially the same things you can legally do in capitalist countries will get you thrown in jail in socialist ones. Acts of corruption there are illegal in the West. So, unfortunately, the West, because there haven't been Western socialist countries, there could be, you know, Chile, it would be considered maybe a Western, well, global South. The U.S. could go socialist, the UK or France, but they never have, unfortunately. France very nearly did, but the CIA rolled in there after World War II and started murdering socialist political leaders in convenient car accidents in France and Belgium. A lot of them just happened to drive off cliffs and bullshit like that. It's obvious that someone was killing them. It was almost certainly the CIA. And funding far-right militias in Italy, which is a country that almost went socialist until Mussolini. So, but anyways, where was I? So the commie blocks were in response to very high rates of urbanization. They were not up to standards. So Soviets wanted to build much nicer architecture than that. That was not because they didn't value aesthetics. It was good architecture where form follows function can actually lead to beautiful architecture if you put a lot of effort into maximizing functionality. The commie blocks weren't even that functional, is the thing to remember. They didn't have good air circulation, for instance, which is an aspect of function, having good air circulation. Ventilation could have been better in them. They could have had more natural light. Natural light is a functional thing. It's not just beauty. It serves a role for human health. Anyways, let's get these scout patrols across the sea. Across the sea. I'm actually seeing a little bit of a song from the Fall from Heaven 2 mod for Civ 4. Some of you might recognize that if you played a lot of that game. If I unload these guys there and start moving them here, the alien artifact can load onto this transport the same turn. Then yeah, I can convoy it. It's fine. I don't need to. I'm gonna minimize the number of chances for a hostile naval unit to sink one of my transports. Next turn, these guys can unload onto the end of this peninsula. I'd like to scout this area instead of having to track through this fungus again, looking for unipods. Oh yeah, I should pop this one right away. See what's in it. Oh, that's why I did it. Why I popped it. Because that would change my calculus about where to move the transport if there's another artifact, and there was. Okay. In that case, this is slightly risky. Yeah, because it could have caused an isle deep to spawn, which would have sunk this empty transport, but there'd still be enough time to unload this one. And I do have a skim ship that's coming to the area, so trying to get close to shore here because I can also do long range fire on any mindworms that spawn as I try to move through fungus tiles. Of course, let's see. Main place that might spawn fungus is here. Should have to be here to bombard any of these fungus tiles, so. Might as well be closer this direction in case I have to rush to the aid of that transport, though. I don't want to end in a fungus tile. Shoot, I guess that'll be as close as I get. But yeah, I have the laser foil AR to support the ground operations and protect the transports for a tiny bit. So my calculus has changed a bit with regards to, well, I still probably want to be on this tile. So if I have the transport load here, sphere moves this way. All right. So I'll pile up scout patrols and such over there. All this fungus. Yeesh. I could have gone diagonally there. Oh well. You know what? I can fix that. I did save after that. Boom. I can see from the pattern of the fungus there has to be fungus here at least. You can see the way the fungus, the tile edges. Nothing there, but at least the terrain is marked explored now. I know there's a little more about the fungus this way. Yeah, you can set up bases in the poles. Which almost always exists. You can even create essentially a blank water map and still have the poles. I'm trying to remember if it's possible to not have them. I think it is possible not to have them. Still don't know if you can raise land tiles from ocean shelf tiles if you have a landformer on a transport. Probably not, because that would strand the transport. So if you technically flooded every land tile on the map, you'd never be able to have land again, I guess. That's what it seems to indicate. Oof. You know what? It's going to take a little while to go there. I still wanted to know what was around. Not risking bounce later. So this has 3 movement. Guess it was not much risk. Maybe that wasn't the smartest move before, though. Could have moved into the fungus when this moved here. Maybe I'll explore this little bay inlet. I can make sure there's a skim ship next to it to defend, or rather block. Yeah, I'll do the little scouting into that little bay, tiny bay. Fungus. Wait a sec. This is supported from border agency. Why did I get sent back to World Health Organization? What's the logic of a probe team from over here? This on this tile. How about Mindworm comes out of the fungus needs that impact squad. Getting sent all the way back there. It doesn't make any sense. It's not the capital. It's not the place where they were supported from. I don't understand it. Oh, well. You can barely see the probe team against all that dark green background. One more reason to get rid of these forests eventually. 2250. If I lowered the train here, I could put a borehole there. Current, it's in the 2000 range altitude band, so there can't be anything next to it lower than 1,000. So yeah, if I lowered it once, then I could put a borehole. It would no longer be sloped terrain. It's not adjacent to anything over 3,000. Nope. So it's not going to force other tiles lower either. And it's not on the river, so it won't suck up the river and destroy it. Okay, yeah, that's a perfect place for borehole. A flat tile, already on a road, so it's a few form returns to get to. It's not in range of world health, so it won't contribute to eco damage there. In fact, it's only in range of one base, the headquarters, which has less mineral production. Avoid is running up eco damage too high in too many bases and risking multiple pops a turn, then sea level rise. Well, it's not going to happen at like 3% at 5 bases. It's more like 3% at 100 bases where you might risk that. I think I only have 2 bases with any eco damage. Oh, not even here anymore. Would have sworn this said +1. Oh, that was with these minerals. When I work the condenser, no eco damage. Border agency is getting close to some. I think the forest helped a little. Yeah. Let's see. Just gonna put a borehole here. And then raise this mine tile to bring all that up. Above sea level. It's a longer term investment because I need a base there. Borehole here, but I have to lower terrain. This make eco damage worse. World health. Let's work out farm mine there. Oh yeah, I'm lowering terrain here to make room for borehole. That's right. Just gonna bring that into 1,000 meter band. Not a problem actually. So I'm lowering here, I'll lower here. Boreholes in both tiles. Then I'll probably raise back up the solar panels. Which will raise, well, this up again. This won't be raised unless I raise it more than once. But I don't actually need to re-raise that since I won't have solar panels there. me a sec. Yeah. All this, I see no reason not to focus on what I'm already working on. Acquiring this. And then there's actually some stuff through here with maybe condensers. The boreholes can't be worked very efficiently immediately, or certainly not more than one. Human headquarters is going to end up giving up this nutrient bonus to this colony pod, which is going to go here.
Terraform complete.
There's the harvest. Shoot, I didn't have to rush as many minerals as I did because I forgot about the forest shop. Whoops. Whoops, that could have saved me like 33 energy. Whoopsie daisy. Mistakes get made, I suppose. Anyhow, yeah, here, if I'm gonna work these boreholes, I'm gonna need some farm condensers. I'm sure some people scream, "Oh, do plant forest," but until I get tree farms, 2 forests provides 2 nutrients. Farm condenser is 4. Then with the borehole, with the cap, if it's rolling condenser, I get 1 less mineral, 2 more nutrients, and same amount of energy out of the whole shebang. That's a good trade-off. Anyways, gonna synergize on terraforming down here. Just have both the formers work on it. The sooner I get that done, the sooner I can start digging a borehole. And then get a mineral boost to headquarters. Righty then.
Request confirmation.
Can't believe I messed up at Forest Agency. Oh well. I mean, I've got so many balls in there, I'm gonna mess stuff up. It's just inevitable.
Request confirmation.
Well, let's hurry that. And about to be a 1 mineral surplus with democracy. So put it at neutral. But then when the colony pod finishes, it'll instantly disband. Yeah, I'll have to work this even though it'll waste a nutrient. Cool. Some inefficiency is inevitable when you're undertaking such big projects. Have so many bases. You just got to be forgiving for yourself and not be all OCD. I suck if I don't do everything perfect. Like, honestly, I think that's part of why some people get so obsessed in this game with perfect micros, because they're not forgiving enough of themselves if they make a mistake. see 1, 2, 3, 4. Probably the most expensive minerals, the ones in this first row. 6.5 times 3, 19, probably 20.
Request confirmation.
Then I'll swap to that. Next turn to fill out the nutrient row, which will be down to just 15 to grow. With democracy, at least 15 after the colony pods, so just getting the perfect nutrient mix anyhow. So formers, river condenser, so eventually become a forest farm river. 3-2-2 tile once they get a tree farm, which is pretty nice yields. And I think I actually have to lift the mineral cap on the way to environmental economics. Let's double check that. Tech trees, yes I do, for what it's worth. Forests are always 2 minerals regardless, but it's interesting to note that. Just plant a forest there. I'll have to figure out what to do with these formers, but that'll have to take place next video. In fact, I may have to cut this one in half already. Even cut in half, it's gonna be 2 50-minute videos. That's kind of long. So, hope you folks did enjoy this. I don't know what I'll call these videos. The last one's I called Prepping the Boom, with a 2 to save on the character count so that you can see more of the title and it's easier to read on YouTube, but it doesn't often show a whole title video. Want to make sure at least the word boom was right out. People would see that much. Pan screen size, display things. I don't know how much of a title you see on YouTube. It's different for everyone, so I want to be catered to all. What would I call this? Let me think of that while I just do a tiny bit more with these formers here. I'm going to pause. All right, not only do I think I have a name, but I've also decided on another base. I thought about a couple names. I think terraforming commission, because it's a reminder to myself there's all these rocky tiles here, which I'm going to level, and then farm condensers. They'll actually work by citizens, not crawlers. Because if you have the minerals, you're better off putting minerals into more colony pods until you fill up your continent. And I have a ton of room to expand. Kind of works with, well, peacekeepers having to spend less on psych to keep his pops happy. So as the free talent for every 4. I thought about putting the base here so I could use some of this existing infrastructure, but I really should do aggressive terraforming of the head of the river here, the rocky tiles. And maybe I don't want to crowd the bases too close together. Well, on the very long term, if you're trying to get the most from a continent, it could make sense. Bureaucracy drones start to really affect your snowball, and I'm not going to play this game for this enormous map, huge map of Tron. It's not even the biggest you can have, but it's a really large map, especially if I'm raising ocean up into land. I don't need to, I'm conquering aggressively. I don't need to have even more bases. I mean, sometimes I guess I do what I think feels right in a moment. So yeah, there are people who will cram even more bases, even denser than this. And I will in certain places, like I'm trying to cram bases really tight around the capital because of the low efficiency of the peacekeepers. In fact, if this monolith disappears at some point, I might put another base here. Um, just creating a bunch of areas that have very low efficiency so they can actually work boreholes for 6 energy, whatever, and put it into network nodes. And on top of that, librarians for my chief science centers, basically, and everything else. There'd be some smaller bases that focus on econ further out. By the time I actually have the science cities up and running, labs will probably be better in econ. It'll take a long time for me to fully develop the areas around. But to be able to pay facilities upkeep and such, I might need a few bases here and there that are engineering centers, do more econ focus, and there's econ specialists. Most everything else is going to be minerals focused because minerals aren't affected by inefficiency. So, anyways, so is that, I think, name for this video. I was thinking maximal rushing because that's what I was doing. I was doing very heavy rushing. Slightly, I wasted a substantial number of 33 energy that I didn't have to forced agency, unfortunately, in order to get. Well, would have. I didn't. Well, no, because I just ended up buying fewer minerals this turn. It was just a complete waste. Because I suppose I still would have bought them at like 2.5 or 12. So it's more like I wasted 17 energy or something. It's not a huge deal. I'll try and make it up by being more careful with some stuff. Right. Anyhow. What I need here is probably another condenser. This will eventually get overgrown with forest. It'll take a long time. Eventually. But what I'm also going to do, this terraforming, is then do a road here, a road here, a road here. And forests slow the construction of roads. It would take 2 turns. I mean 3 turns instead of 2 on a flat river tile. Rolling terrain of rivers both slow roads, and forests even more so. So I'll do the condenser here. Protect the stack of 3 formers. Doing an expensive project, wouldn't want that interrupted. Take a long time for forest to grow into all this, but I need the nutrients in the short run. In the longest run, slightly better forest tiles, forest river tiles specifically, which are tiles that have a. Rivers are especially good if you're going to work forest to work, because those are the least amenable to efficient supply crawling, unless you're doing it for energy for some reason. So maybe an energy resource on a river that your solar panels at high elevation with lots of echelon mirrors, then maybe a river you would want to crawl. But otherwise, forested river valleys and farms if the terrain is rolling, condenser farms. But or solar panels sometimes, since you're already doing energy and you're going to collect it. But yeah, flat river tiles, forests often, and but condenser forests are always better than normal forests because they'll produce an extra nutrient. Once you get to base 2, which requires a tree farm, as I said, or in the monsoon jungle, a forest river tile in the monsoon jungle produce 3 nutrients already. And with a hybrid farm, it'll produce 6. Which is very good because it'll be based 1 from the forest, 2 from it being monsoon jungle forest, 3 from tree farm, 4 from hybrid farm. nutrients, and then condenser increases by 50%. So that's almost as good as a condenser on a nutrient tile right now or something. It's very good yields. Which means I'll probably end up sticking some condensers in these rivers and forests nearby and letting the forests grow in. These are all rolling terrain. So maybe not. I might just want condenser farms, maximize food output. In the longest run, that's better anyways because of satellites and specialists. Very longest run. Condenser forests take forever to grow. I mean, a really long time, you know, for the forest to actually grow in the condensers. Mean time to happen on the forest growth is not that good. Getting that terraforming done. Now, it's kind of doing the terraforming micro while I'm thinking of micro stuff, and I'm going to cut the video in just a moment. Right, so Disability Rights Agency has got its road. Got the forest planting here. Borehole next. This is a rolling rainy tile. Maybe I actually want to do a could do a farm mine or condenser farm for brand new base. Yeah, I might want to just start a condenser farm there. Whatever I do, this tile probably need nutrients before I work the borehole. Otherwise, the base will grow too slow and not get to use its other tiles. Cool. There's already a former there working the borehole, and there'll be a second soon, so I don't need 3. It's wasted turns on moving into tiles. Quite a few wasted turns. I have scout patrols in the area anyways. Might as well guard the formers. I will have them once they're in position. Not forced. Yeah. We'll have them try moving to fungus to hunt worms, but it was a fail. Oh well. I don't think moving into a fungus next to the base, except during perihilling, can actually spawn worms. I don't. Oh. This form is undefended. Take the tiny risk of some mindworm bypassing the scout patrol and going to the base to try and hunt worms, and if it was here, it would protect this former because there'd be no path for worms to reach it. Cool. Better to guard where the formers won't suffer collateral and hunt worms in the process. Wormy worm worm. Hunting the worm. Keep saying I'll end the video and I don't quite do it as soon as I should. Right. The more micro I do now, I keep thinking the less I'll have to do later. Right. There's some truth to that, I suppose. Some. Load the scout patrol. Unload the scout patrol and... Ooh, load this healed up recon rover. Since it should be looting the base anyhow. On a roll. Lots of damaged units healing the base. That's good. It's the base. One of its main functions is to fully heal units. Besides working these tiles. Right to then. Suppose I gotta keep hunting for worms. That was a failed move. Next turn, I'll have a transfer pop out of the city and I'll jump in it. Could go here, load up. Transfer could go there. And lots of fun stuff you can do with transports if you've got the presence of mind. Plan the movements well.
indigenous life forms.
Cool. Like I have the uni rover. Nah. I mean, it is independent. And the recon rover can be upgraded to more combat capable stuff. Yeah. If it loses. Oh, well, I lost. I was going to say the uni rover can finish this thing off. Almost certainly will win. I'm losing a lot of rovers lately to Mindworms. I should probably go this way first. Get closer to Louisville Council. Oh, zones of control nonsense. Darn it. Alright. Probably won't lose this move anyhow. 4, 5 to 8 odds. Little damage, but definitely not destroyed or even reduced to mobility. Stack with the formers for a turn. Get back to Louisville Council and finish healing. Artifact should be safe from here. Although, yeah, probably the best thing for Scout Patrol is to do is to hunt along the river anyhow. So I'll keep moving it that way. If this was Alien Crossfire, I would have to worry about spore launchers occasionally attacking on the fungus. That would change my considerations a little on how I moved units around, but spore launchers don't exist in the base game. Only Mindworms and Owls of the Deep. I forget, Locust of Chiron? Is that Alien Crossfire away? I don't remember. Yeah, one of the things is I don't always note where rovers that might get destroyed come from. Probably should be better about that because it affects my calculations with like when stuff will be built in bases and such. Boom. This prevents around Mindworms from doing collateral damage to the transport. So, cool. I think the, like, sci-fi-y explanation for the cloud damage is supposed to be that the reactors overload when units die at the very end. So if probe teams that are not supported by World Health can be kicked back there for whatever dumb reason, then I suppose there was no reason to actually move units through border agency like I've been so focused on doing. Well, I might still want to take this. I don't want to do it anyways. Take this path. Keep the probe teams away from the fungus here if I'm not going to keep units there. It could be, well, there could be times where they're predisposed to go where they're getting support from. The probe teams. Anyways. Probe team score. This is creating a truly ludicrous forces supported tab, I have to say. border agency. That missile rover can be sped up by disbanding a unit. Did 2 before, and any more would have just wasted some of the production. Got a disciplined unit here, which are my first preference for what to disband. I'm running out of disciplined rovers, so hardened mostly, especially damaged ones. Suppose, let's see if this can spawns a worm before anything else, or I should want this one. That, don't I? Eh. Protect the former. Protect the former. So maybe I won't bother rebasing those probe teams. It'll be a mix of border agency and monitoring that supports everything. Rebasing may be useless, just waste probe moves. In which case I didn't screw up with the one that got kicked back here before, because I couldn't have prevented that. This is 2 probe teams now have been kicked back, and they both went to World Health. Maybe it's based on where they're trained, regardless of where they're supported from. Could be something stupid like that. I don't know how the game determines it. Something tells me it's not anything that makes sense. So this force modernization allows me to, have fewer, better rovers that cost less upkeep. And in the long run, I'll need to rebuild to the same numbers as before, because I'm not fighting armor units that often. But the upgrades will give me more rovers that provide greater might rating, and will gain experience through field battles, and the most elite ones can attack bases alongside infantry. That's the thought process, anyhow. Maybe these missile rovers are a total waste of time. One impact rover, I think, is 3 rows. I could check that, because I did get impact weaponry via trade. Yep, 3. Missile launcher is 5. Big cost difference. But because missile squads are so good, I just skipped right over impact rovers and went right from missile rovers. Fewer prototypes this way for a while. That might not be the smartest idea. Alright, I think that's enough for this video. I've got stuff to think about. Interesting in mind wanting to go for the probe team or the rover last turn. So I wish you folks all the best. Take care of each other. Be kind to yourselves. May you always find guiding star to lead you on to next time. It's Northstar. Adieu.